With the last one, I really enjoyed adding just a kind of little bit of like song with no words, tree with no leaves.
I heard that. Yeah, that was tasteful.
Yeah, no, it's kind of like Muzak. Mm-hmm. So it is tasteful. It's like a Muzak thing.
Muzak, which is what the Doors producer thought that L.A. Woman sounded like before he quit.
I didn't know that. Tell me all about it.
They went to Sunset Sound to make the record, and they were playing like Riders on the Storm. And like
such a good song.
And the guys in the thing, he's like, I heard this shit. And he said, I walked into the studio and I said, you guys, I'm bored as fuck. He was like, first time in 5 years I've had my head on the desk. And he's like, I'm out of here. And he quit the sessions.
Really?
So they were like, well, fuck, we'll just make the record ourselves. So they went to the rehearsal space and made it with the engineer, Bruce Botnick.
Did it sound? It's such a good sounding record.
Dude, the photos, all like a room like this.
Yeah, they're just ripping.
Nothing.
Yeah.
Just ripping.
A lot of
Jim
overdubs.
in the bathroom.
Yeah, literally on the toilet.
Yeah, there's overdubs. A lot of keys and shit. And
a lot of keyed up feels.
Yeah, there is definitely. But Jim's just singing in the bathroom live.
Yeah, he's like literally in his underwear just on the toilet.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. He took the door off the hinges so we could connect with the band and so they could see him kind of on his throne.
Yeah. The Rolling Stone reviews really interesting for the record. It's kind of like
Ben Fong Torres is in the documentary, so I wonder if he wrote it.
No, it's like Meltzer wrote it.
Oh, okay.
Not like Terry Melcher. That would make sense.
Richard Meltzer.
Yeah, Richard Meltzer. Yeah, Richard Meltzer wrote it, and it's fully like funny reading those things because music journalism is this like art form unto itself. It's so postmodern. It's like this kind of like Leotardian human condition, like iconoclastic. You're referencing all the wrong things next to each other, like Batman and Shakespeare in the same fucking set.
Sure.
And it's like the Lester Bangs thing, but it's like it's never been as good as it was then. It's more modern. It's more hyper modern in the 70s than it is now. Like that's like it was like kind of as important as the music.
Well, you could definitely say that like more so than music.
Yeah.
The journalism then was like a
huge,
cutting edge, like
art form.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
I just mean as opposed to now.
Yeah,
now
it's of course.
Like we talk about how rock and roll's dead now, but journalism is completely
it's gone. Yeah. I spent a lot of time today. I realized that like when I was like on YouTube, like looking up like Doors stuff, like there's like more famous than like the Doors, like L.A. Woman is like a girl doing a cover of L.A. Woman's guitar parts, but like it's mostly about her tits. Like that's like, and I guess that's like a style of video.
Right.
So, it's there's like many different competing. You can get really like lost in that world.
I think you've showed me some of these like Instagram accounts and stuff.
Yeah.
Like that.
I mean, I think it's the most important evolution of rock and roll music. I mean, these guys can play. Let me tell you.
For sure.
Yeah. Well, Meltzer was like on a kind of weird tip about the record. It was really hard to understand how he felt about it in the review because he's basically talking about like how they're just like the number one comedy band and how like Jim Morrison's finally decided not to care and like do this like transracial vibrato now that like Al Green's dead and like all these like kind of like heroes are gone, he can just finally be a clown. And he doesn't even, and now the band itself are also being clowns. Like they're just like playing along with his like kind of, I guess like a bit of a Joker vibe.
I love that take.
But at the end of this like what seems like a kind of like Joker style scathing review, he says, and you guys can hang me for this if you want, but this is the best Doors album ever, and it's the best record of the year so far.
Wow.
So like. But I don't know how he feels about it, really. You know what I mean? It's like, but I mean, I fucking love it.
That's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
I like it too.
Yeah.
When I listened to it today, first thing that came to mind.
Tell me.
Kind of bluesy.
I was actually going to ask you, did you think it was kind of bluesy?
Yeah, I mean, you could. I think that I might be going out on a bit of a limb here, but for me personally, I thought some of the music sounded like it was influenced a bit by blues music.
Would you say, because I agree, like Love Her Madly, Been Down So Long, Cars Hiss By My Window, would you say it's the bluesiest Doors record?
Yeah, well, I think that they famously, said it was like kind of like going home.
It's kind of down
back to
home,
the blues.
kind of
Getting back down home to the blues.
Homegrown.
They did it on Morrison Hotel, and they did it again.
Yeah, bluer than
L.A.
blue.
Woman.
Kind of
blues.
Down on the range.
Traditional.
Kind of all like like that
blues.
restaurant Ben went one time.
Yeah, Cracker Barrel
Kind of
blues.
a Cracker Barrel blues.
I think there's a song on it called Cracker Barrel Blues.
I think there's 2 songs on it. And they do a John Lee Hooker cover, don't they?
Right. That one's definitely a bit bluesy.
Crawling King Snake's a pretty bluesy one.
That's definitely bluesy.
Do you think...
And the one, well, I've been down goddamn long.
Yeah, it is.
They're like, this documentary I watched, it's like, that was just Jim, that was just Jim, he had taken all he could from the justice system in America.
Yeah.
And the justice system was out to get him. They wouldn't let us be a band.
It is kind of weird. So true.
Yeah.
It is kind of weird, though, that, like, they had songs. It's weird that they had songs banned.
Yeah.
Like,
they did, the record company did a wicked campaign.
Like, Love Me 2 Times was banned for some reason. Like, that's, like, somehow, like, more sexual than... I don't know, like...
It's the way he sings it, James.
Listen, this guy's got armadillos in his trousers.
He could say anything he wants, and it just sounds like sex.
Yeah, it's true.
But no, the record company did this great campaign where every song for L.A. Woman was like The Doors in, and like Been Down So Long was just like a picture of like his mugshot. And then it was like, just let him be.
Nice. Yeah.
Just let Jim be.
Let the Mr. Mojo Rising Crawling King Snake be.
Yeah.
Do you think his obsession with snakes and lizards was because he really liked leather?
And he probably had a thing about his own penis too.
You don't think it's about leather?
Well, he famously pulled out his cock at a show in Miami.
I know. He started a riot.
Yeah.
You ever seen some of that? Like, there's like his like doing Gloria and stuff. Like his famous kind of spoken word stuff where he's like, "Young girl, like what school you go to? Young girl, like why don't you suck my dick?" Like that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's pretty libidinal.
It is. I mean, it is definitely.
And he
on the edge kind of.
And he had like like an eating disorder and was like. Clearly like sexed up because he's kind of a nerdy guy, right?
Yeah, he had to just take a lot of acid and stop eating to lose the weight.
Yeah,
but then he went and moved and lived on the beach because then booze actually you can pack on the pounds from even if you don't eat and you just drink. I guess you can still get fat like he did.
I mean, his change in the period, like the short, it's like a 6-year period.
That's what he's talking about.
3 or 4 year window
is actually his body.
Do you think he is?
Yeah.
I went uptown. I've been all. It's so good. The Changeling rules.
Did you see that video I sent you?
Yeah, but I didn't watch it yet because I went to Meinhardt's actually.
I'm gonna just play it on the air here.
Yeah,
Listen
play
to
it.
This guy talk about the Changeling.
This guy rules. We recorded, and it turned out to be the first song on the album.
Not this guy.
They come out with this great kick-ass rocker called the Changeling.
Fuck yeah.
And the first thing you hear Jim Morrison say is, "Get loose."
Love this guy.
I'm ready to get loose. Let's see what you got.
Dude, let's see what you got.
So there's this guy in the documentary. He's wearing sunglasses and he's like in kind of a studio somewhere, leather jacket.
Yeah, of course.
He's about 60.
Do you think is he wearing a leather jacket or is it more of a leather waistcoat?
It's kind of like a vinyl. It's kind of a dual purpose. Well, here's this other clip from him. Let's see.
Was the culture of the 21st century.
That's right.
They were working on an intellectual and lyrical level that was higher than most other people.
No doubt.
And, I mean, they were, to me, right up there with the Beatles.
Right up there with the Beatles.
Yeah.
Right up there. They were on an intellectual an artistically higher level. And so this guy's in the documentary a lot. You know, he's really cool looking.
Yeah.
He kind of he's got sunglasses on. He looks and sounds like the guy who plays David St. Hubbins in Spinal Tap, the actor.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, he looks a lot like him. I
Haberdasher.
thought it was him.
Too much
But
perspective.
it wasn't him.
No.
And then finally they say his name at the bottom of the thing. Jim Ladd, radio DJ.
Nice. Yeah. No relation to any of it.
He was a DJ at some point in history.
Not even at the same time.
Maybe.
Well, there is a causal connection
Maybe
between...
Jim Ladd's really famous and I'm embarrassing myself.
I don't know. There's a
Go
causal connection between the Beatles and the Doors, though, in that they were the two main bands that the CIA invented in the 60s to try and control protest and revolution and to basically to stop using kind of hooking kids on sex, drugs, and rock and roll so they wouldn't overthrow the military-industrial complex.
Right.
And the Beatles are the English version of this, and the whole Laurel Canyon scene, it seems like, to just... You know, and it sounds like I'm joking, but we're going to have a serious conversation about this.
What I was going to say is that I'm sure everyone listening already knows this as fact.
As fact.
But let's talk about it just for those who don't.
Well, it's just that, the Beatles, have always been kind of... Everyone knows that they were conceived as, a band, and given the kind of movement, given kind of, the room to work... Given words that no one had ever used before.
Right.
Things like rock, teenager, cool, discovered.
Well, they were paid to use those words.
Yeah, they were paid to.
Yeah.
And that lexicon of disguised words, kind of code words, I guess, signifies the acceptance of drugs. And it went on to accompany the Beatles wherever they went. So they were discovered, much like you would discover, yourself.
Well, and the thing about the Beatles was... They were talentless hacks
100%.
who no one would have cared at all about had it not been for the mass media campaign surrounding them.
Certainly.
Had nothing to do with the music.
I think also
keywords.
And Adorno. I think Theodore Adorno.
Dionysus. Yeah.
It has something to do with this sort of Dionysian 12 atonal.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a theory there. I've read it.
Hypnosis. Kind of the masses.
Yeah, it's kind of an MK Ultra, Alan Dulles style thing. Well, that's the American side of it, really.
Well, that was the prototype. Was the Beatles
prototype? Yeah, the Beatles were the prototype. So
Queen
in that
of England
sense,
really took. She was like, we got to do something.
I think the Queen was involved.
She was the head of the whole operation.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, there is a lot of clues within the Doors that they were part of that CIA cover-up. Mm-hmm. Or that kind of mind control experiment.
Do you have any examples?
Well, the clues in his lyrics and his poetry, certainly, yeah. The Changeling, Lizard King, Peace Frog. Peace Frog is to me potentially a huge clue. Rivers of blood, that kind of thing.
Right. Yeah, blood on the streets.
Yeah.
It's bothering me.
Yeah, in New Haven. Which is where they actually they were banned. That's where they banned Love Me Two Times.
Can we talk seriously though about how okay, it's hard. We're trying to stay. We're not. This is not the Stephen Colbert show. In that conspiracy, it's so awesome that the person is talking about the Doors is well, you try to explain how they absolutely came out of nowhere.
No, they arrived on the scene as a developed rock band. That's what he says. He says, Morrison essentially arrived on the scene as a fully developed rock star, complete with a backing band, a stage persona, and an impressive collection of songs. Enough, in fact, to fill 2 albums. This guy...
It's this person who wrote it has never heard of music, has no concept of what it's like to start a band.
No.
So in his mind, or wear clothes.
Yeah, he's just or he's obviously got no friends, never has made a friend, so he doesn't know how culture works when you meet people, socializing.
And he's anyone who dresses like that is clearly the experiment of a government.
Yeah, no, it's 100% they're psyop.
There's no chance that he just walked into a store in LA and bought some leather pants.
No.
and
Fully
then
developed.
met, like, what was the Ray and the...
Well, they were like literally
They
a
were a
band.
bar
They were
band.
called Rick and the Ravens.
Yeah.
Like Ray Manzarek just had a bar band.
And then, like, Jim just, like, had a couple of poems, and they just jammed out.
Literally for 10 years. That's all they did.
The funny thing to me, and I think it's addressed in that article, is that how much credit...
This is a full show notes thing that we're never going to do. But
how
it's
much
like,
credit this shit gives to, like, the U.S. government.
Yeah.
And the thing that it's like, it's not even giving them, it's like that they're saying that the U.S. government is this devious and smart that they would be able to create rock and roll.
Yeah.
Like something that we hold in such high esteem.
Well, it also is funny because in effect it like counter supports the CIA because it like retroactively credits them with like some of the most exciting culture of all
and, like,
time.
they wrote the songs or something.
They
like,
wrote.
they're saying
They
that
wrote like the
Beatles
Changeling.
songs
Oh
and
no, they
stuff.
wrote all the Beatles songs.
Like that's what they're saying. Like and so these conspirators
Yeah.
who are trying to bring down the government or something are in turn saying that the government are the greatest musical artists of our time.
Yeah,
The CIA.
It's also weird because you'd think like the Doors, particularly, like if their job was to stop people questioning the military-industrial complex, it seems as though they were making people riot and kind of question these kind of things. Or maybe they're like, it was a tapered down version of questioning authority or something.
Well, I think that's the theory behind it, is that it's like controlled rioting, whereas
Yes.
it's about music.
Yeah,
And it's not
and
like
about
had they organized and actually
collectively.
formed a revolutionary anti-government, then that would have been really dangerous, an anti-war movement. But they dope them up
yeah.
on music
And they
drugs.
get these guys saying, do it.
Yeah, and it's controlled because they think that they're doing something.
Yeah.
But they're
it's kind of a Matrix style scenario.
Exactly.
It's
Yeah,
actually
they're all
just
plugged in, man.
Maybe the Matrix is about that. People say it's about being trans, but I think it's about probably like
then
the
eventually-
Wachowski brothers say it's
eventually you
about.
get
Sisters say
unplugged.
it's about that. Yeah. And then it's what?
like Clapton.
What in the equivalent scenario, if the Matrix, like who's Neo?
In the Laurel Canyon scene?
Like who got unplugged
Oh, good point. Oh, yeah.
from it? Did anyone get unplugged? Joni kind of got unplugged.
I don't know. Yeah.
Neil got unplugged.
Neil kind of.
He
but,
was
like,
never plugged in, though,
He didn't
was he?
really like get unplugged to like save anyone, though. He kind of got unplugged to just do his own thing.
It's funny though because like the other guys, like like the fucking like hallucinatory like Vietnam shit that Stills did, and like and like how like David Crosby's just like the progression of his like complete insanity and delusions. Like they got deeper in. Do you think David Crosby's the guy in Easy Rider, Dennis Hopper in Easy Rider?
Well, I think that Dennis Hopper, it's one of those kind of coincidental things where he looks a lot like David Crosby.
Yeah.
And he has a mustache at the time, and he also is famously drug crazed his entire career.
Yeah.
And so I think that it's just easy to draw the comparison, but
yeah. They kind of like, 'cause
hard to say who influenced who, though.
True. It's funny because like David Crosby says in the documentary, I'm still on the documentary a bit from last Sunday, like he says that Dennis Hopper was copying him. It was like he was the character Dennis Hopper plays in Easy Rider was modeled on him, and that they should have just saved everyone.
Well,
And just let him play the character because it would have been a better movie. David Crosby considers himself a better actor than Dennis Hopper.
Well, that's just kind of what people say
Yeah.
when they get to be this age and get the opportunity to do a documentary about themselves.
with
What
Cameron
can I
Crowe.
claim credit for?
Because Cameron will let me do anything.
I actually wrote. Well, doesn't he say he wrote a bunch of songs he didn't write?
I
too?
think so, yeah. He certainly doesn't say why he went to jail in it.
No,
Luke
'cause
had
he
a good
doesn't want
point.
people to hear that.
Luke had a good point where he said that the best scene in the documentary is where David Crosby's like talking kind of like, it's a full Spinal Tap. He's like talking peace, love. He's like, they're driving up like Lookout Mountain, like Wonderland or something. And there's a lot of darkness there. Like Wonderland's famous murders, serial killer up there, and it's like they're in Laurel Canyon. He's like driving. He's like, "This is the house, man. This is where we live. This is the house, man." And he's like, and they're driving. He's like, it's a great time. And then he's just like, you turn left here. You didn't turn left. He's just like suddenly gets aggro with like whoever's driving the car.
Uber
like,
drivers
says about all you need to know about him.
Right.
Yeah.
Luke kind of looks a little bit like Jim Morrison, I was thinking.
You think so?
When I was watching the thing.
Not early Jim,
compliment. Though. Yeah, early Jim, yeah.
You think so, eh?
Maybe a little bit. Could just be the long hair and the kind of
California
attitude.
I'd have to see a photo of Luke doing like the pose, like the famous kind of snake charmer pose.
Like hand on the mic stand thing?
No, I was thinking like that one where he's like full... I can't do it. I'll do... Hang on. Like this one.
Right.
Yeah, like kind of like he's leaning up against a fence, like a wrought iron fence. That pose.
Couple other great quotes that Jim Ladd, radio DJ, says
Radio
in
DJ
that
Jim.
movie.
Shall I look him up? I've got my computer.
I did.
Today,
he was a pretty big DJ.
He's a pretty big deal, actually.
I don't know, big deal. It says that he's one of the few notable remaining free-form rock DJs in U.S. commercial radio.
Freeform?
Freeform rock.
What do you think freeform rock is?
Rock DJ. I guess like just play what we want when we want. Jack
Radio
FM.
freedom.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Ladd has interviewed the likes of John Lennon, Grateful Dead, Pink Floyd, Rush, U2, Joni Mitchell, Stevie Nicks, Crosby, Stills, Nash, Young, Eagles, and Led Zeppelin.
The usual suspects.
Anyway, but in this documentary, at one point, he says, every quote, I couldn't write them all down because everyone was the best thing I'd ever heard.
Yeah,
also, he never takes off his sunglasses. I don't know why.
Why
Even
would
in
you?
every photo I'm looking at here.
Why would you take them off?
Exactly. I like that kind of thing. Hunter S. Thompson, sort of.
Yeah, there's Hunter S. Thompson thing. There's a guy in Manchester when I was growing up. Bono does that. Yeah, Bono does that. There's a guy called Biggs that Sam doesn't remember. And he was like the first person I knew who did that. He was like, he looked a bit like Ozzy. He talked to, and he would put on shows. You ever playing shows when you were younger? I don't know if it was like this in Victoria, like in Manchester, it'd be in bands and like you'd play and be so excited to like someone had asked, you could play shows in the city. Think of these places as like the Whiskey and the Troubadour. We had our own little scene of them, like Night and Day, Roadhouse.
I could tell you that it wasn't anything like Manchester and Victoria. But...
Yeah, you had Lucky Bar though. Lucky Bar's cool, man. But we'd play Retro Bar. We'd play these shows, and you'd play, and there'd be a guy who's like older, like Biggs, or I was at the Attic. This place is called above a pub called the Thirsty Scholar. Probably the first time I did Pills was in there, and you'd get these gigs and you'd play them. You'd be so excited because it'd be like a club night. And I bet it was the same in Laurel Canyon. I bet it was the same on the Strip in the 70s. You'd be so excited to play. And there'd be like 200 people there. Most of them people that you knew, but there's a built-in crowd. And you'd just be like so excited. It took me about 10 years to recognize that I was getting ripped off. Like never got paid or anything. It was like, we're playing, man. We're playing and people come in to see my band play. You get like 6 beers.
I still feel that way.
Dude, and the Biggs or like whatever, and these guys, he's probably dead. I mean, rest in peace if he is, but he was like the sunglasses guy. He'd be like, you guys are the second best band in Manchester. Nice. First best band is this band. Third best band is this band. And then,
That's funny. I do remember people like that and in the scene.
And they build you up
they
and you'd
knew
feel
the
good.
scene so well. And they'd be like,
and
honestly, I remember people like this.
And you'd never get paid. And they were like in their 40s and they weren't making money. They were grafting. But it was like funny to think that like they were just playing. You were playing. They'd give you like some beers. And then like 2 other bands that play. It was a great fucking night. There was a DJ playing music. He probably paid the DJ £100 or something. And everyone paid a $5 to get in. It's 200 people. He probably made $1,000 at least every time that you did these nights.
But you felt you got paid in his compliment that you were the second best.
Groomed. I was being groomed.
Yeah.
Which is probably how it felt on the Strip. Like for the Doors, they're playing.
On the Strip in Victoria?
Yeah.
Johnson Street Strip?
Yeah, Douglas and Johnson. Yeah.
Yeah, Lucky Bar.
Was there other places?
Backpackers Inn.
Did
where we played? Logan's was big.
Logan's Rules. Do
Yeah.
you ever play Sugar? Too big.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. 2-word review.
Yeah. Shit sandwich. One time I played at Sugar and there was a guy working the bar. I think I was with Malcolm actually. There was a guy working the bar who looked like Guile from Street Fighter.
Nice.
It's kind of that vibe, like, it's kind of like a club really, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, I played there a few times.
And he's kind of like Guile was there, and we were like thinking about that scene in Wayne's World where like, like they open the door and there's like a fucking kung fu and like fighting and behind the bar, like in the door. Do you remember that scene? That would be like the only person that could have made this joke with me is Malcolm. There's like no one else actually. Now I think about it, be like me and him were like getting a drink and it's like dead and we're playing at Sugar and he's like. We're like laughing that this guy looks like Guile and like just imagining him being like, hey guys, you want to come back here for a second? Like help me with a keg. And he opens the door and you're like, shit. And you're looking around, you're like, we're in Guile's level from Street Fighter.
From the movie Street Fighter?
Well, or the Super Nintendo game.
Right,
like either or, but it's like there's like a jet, there's like a plane back there. It's like the Patriot kind of stuff. And you're like, he just starts throwing sonic booms at you. And all you're doing is trying to play a show. You've already lost loads of money, but now you're also getting the shit kicked out of you.
I love you. You guys really went for it on
I was
this
like,
joke.
no, fuck, this is Guile's level.
I will say, though, I'll agree with you.
Goddamn
that
impossible way of life, man.
Sugar has the vibe of a Wayne's World vibe of like the place you would play once you've sold out in Wayne's World.
Yes,
It like has that club feel.
Yeah,
it's
it's
like,
a
guys,
club
this is
feel.
going to be a great gig
Christopher
for you.
Walken's going to be there.
Yeah, and nobody's there.
No
and
one's
you're like,
there.
this is going to be a great gig for you. And you're like, man, like, yeah, this sucks.
Yeah, this sucks. I want to play Logan's again.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Pub 340.
That's what it was like.
Yeah. Lucky's cool, though. I'm thinking of actually now, like, a band that, like, would certainly have played Lucky Bar at some point that I always thought had more of a Joy Division energy. But now I'm thinking about it, it's more of a Jim Morrison, Interpol.
Yeah.
I had money.
Yeah.
You know? I always thought it was like a kind of Joy Division vibe, but actually now thinking about it, it's...
Well, it was partial lineage there, I think.
Yeah. I don't know what that is.
You know more because you're from Manchester, but...
Well, you think
I
that
could see a
Joy
little
Division, there's a
in
partial...
the vocal delivery,
kind
Ian
of.
Curtis a little bit.
Maybe. You think he was into Jim Morrison? That's
No.
cool, man.
But like subliminally.
You know who subliminally, psychotically, you know who kind of, no one else sounds like Jim, right? Really.
Sing a song to light my fire.
Remember Jim that way.
No one
Number
else sings
two.
like Jim.
Well, Ian McCulloch a bit with Echo and the Bunnymen. The Killing Time.
Yes, definitely.
It
That's
will
definitely
be mine.
Doors.
Yeah.
No question.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what I was thinking of.
It's a fucking good song. That. Good album. 7 seas, sailing them so well. He has a total Jim vibe.
You know, I opened for them at the Commodore, right?
Yeah, man.
Solo.
How was that?
It was really
That's a
weird.
real impossible way of life story.
They requested me
That's great.
because they were friends with this guy Kelly Stoltz. You remember Kelly?
I don't know if I do.
Big time in the like kind of like a San Francisco indie scene of the
yes,
early
100%.
2000s.
Yeah, 100%. Sorry, I thought you were talking about a guy from like the Lucky Bar.
No.
I thought you were
And
talking about a Johnson
he weirdly
Street
was
guy.
a big Shiloh's fan.
Well, you were a great band, man.
And
Kinda
so
like Sister Lovers
he
energy.
knew all these people.
Oh, all that shit.
And I got an email from Echo and the Bunnymen's manager saying, we're good friends with Kelly, and we asked him who we should get to open for us at the Commodore, and he said you, but it's only solo acoustic. It's so show sold out.
Yeah.
And I was like, sure, I'll do it.
Did you enjoy it?
I enjoyed playing. It was strange, but
Yeah.
I got a lot of compliments after the show, which was nice. And they were very nice, the band.
That's
Except
cool.
when I was in their backstage room,
Zone.
and then they pushed me out because they wanted to all do coke.
That's sick, though.
Yeah. They were, and then the guy came up to me after, the guitarist.
Oh, yeah.
And was like, he came up to, he was all keyed up after, and he
Yeah,
came into my
fuck
room, and
yeah.
he's like, just wanted to say, like, can't do Manchester, but he was like, just want to say, man.
Well, in Liverpool, yeah, but
Yeah, just want to say, man, like really
Just wanna say
really
that-
sorry. Yeah,
really sorry about that.
but like we just need like
a fucking moment.
we just
yeah.
need a bit of our moment before
Yeah,
pre-show.
just
you know.
the-
And he had a nail, the awesome, like
He had
the
a coke
wicked
nail?
Coke
That's
nail.
fucking wicked,
Yeah,
man.
ring on it, like it's like, and he was like, and he was just, I came to apologize. He was like, well,
Yeah,
you know, like you get
we
it.
just need.
And I was like, no problem, dude.
100%. Give me a line.
Yeah.
Did you do coke
No,
with them?
I didn't.
That would be nice.
I did
I
not.
did it with Andy Rourke from the Smiths one time when he was in town. It was
Really?
really bleak, though. I'd met him in Manchester loads, so the whole thing was a bit bleak. But yeah. Yeah, Ocean's Rain's a good record. You know what else is a good record? L.A. Woman.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Yeah, I'm just trying to find. I'm just reading about this.
I've got a couple of questions
Go
for
ahead.
you. If the Doors are the band that, simply put, like, were created to hook kids on rock music and hard drugs, taking their minds off revolution. I'm going to give you some other sort of crushing the peace movement bands.
Well, that's funny, but before you do that, because let me see if this is what you were gonna do.
Yeah.
Because this is part of that article that I really, really thought was really funny because
Yeah.
it's all people. Okay, first of all, before I make this joke, it is really interesting
Yes.
that to me
Yeah.
all of the figurehead musicians of the Laurel Canyon scene were the
sons of high-ranking military members.
or just well-off
yeah.
people, so they were draft dodgers.
Yeah, for sure.
And they, that is interesting, worth discussion. On
Well,
another
Jim Morrison's dad started the Vietnam War.
Yeah, that's right. By engaging,
He engaged.
some torpedo boats
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
the
In North Korea. North Vietnam.
It was
It's kind of
the,
around Howlong Bay. I
no, it
think.
was the I can't remember what it's called. Anyway,
Well, either way, it's an absolute
I
fact.
enjoyed this part. Were you aware that Jim Morrison, Frank Zappa, Papa John Phillips, and
do you think it's the pizza company's named after John Phillips?
Papa John? I think he started it. Yeah,
Papa John's?
yeah, before he died. Yeah,
Yeah, before he
Rest in
had
peace.
sex with his daughter.
Papa John Phillips and David Crosby were all children of high-ranking members of the American military, or that the Los Angeles neighborhood of Laurel Canyon, one time home to all of the above, was also the location of the Air Force's 1,352nd photographic group. This is the part coming up. I just like one word
Yeah.
here. I'm reading it just because I like
Please,
one word. These factoids might not mean much to you, but according to the late conspiracy researcher David McGowan, they indicated a military psyop,
Yeah, PSYOP, yeah.
psychological operation
yeah,
of
MK Ultra.
mind-blowing proportions.
Yeah, it's MK Ultra. It's that kind of like dosing people with acid. It's kind of started in the 50s. I'm reading that book. Love the
Probably
name of
after
this.
Korea.
The
they saw
Devil's
it building.
The Devil's Chessboard.
Right.
Yeah. Alan Dulles. No, it all starts with Nazis because Alan Dulles, who
Right.
founded the CIA, was a American spy, and he was living in Switzerland during the Second World War. So there's a thing called Operation Sunrise, which is like the movement. It was a kind of against the unconditional surrender of Nazis, which was like the Allied line,
Sure.
Which is like FDR's line particularly. He was working on this thing called Operation Sunrise, which was to smuggle out the lesser known Nazis to create stability still within Germany. So like it all starts, that's where the CIA was sort of developed. But there's that book called by Tom O'Neill called Chaos, which is the other, like a kind of alternative, I guess it was like a 50-year thing, right? Because there was Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, basically an alternative reading of Bugliosi's version of Manson, where it's just like, there's just fucking psyop shit. Like, there's just like CIA and FBI guys like hanging around in the scene. Everyone knows that these guys are like Zappa's friends with them. Mm-hmm. It's also weird that Zappa, Jim Morrison, David Crosby, and John Phillips are all children of high-ranking members of the American military, but also Crosby and Zappa are always duking it out for the right to be the first person to move to Laurel Canyon. They're always like, I started it. And the last thing I would say is that military base in Laurel Canyon I've been to it. It's Jared Leto lives there now, so make what you want
he's
of
kind
that.
of the new
He's kind of the
king
new
of
king,
the Laurel Canyon
the
scene.
Joker.
Whatever's left of it.
Yeah, I would say that he is. So I was going to say, like, here's some other bands that presumably are related to this kind of crushing the peace movement scene.
Okay.
The Byrds. I'll tell you, it's interesting because Zappa's from a place called Lancaster, California. And also Clarence White is from there.
Yeah.
You know, so
it's a stretch. He was like in the later Birds.
Yeah.
Like post Graham Parsons.
Well, he replaced Graham Parsons.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But you know who else is from Lancaster?
Who's that?
Beefheart.
Well, they went to high school together.
Yeah.
Zappa and Beefheart.
High school, a.k.a. military training. You know what else is in Lancaster?
Sorry, go ahead.
Well, it's just interesting.
Yeah.
Area 51.
I thought that was in Nevada.
Listen, we're working, there's some fucking reverse engineering extraterrestrial technology shit going on. It's in the remit of Lancaster, California.
I think that these people are just making shit up as they go along.
Listen,
what I mean.
what
Which is
about-
great.
what
Fine
about
by me because we're doing the same thing.
Crosby, Stills, and Nash, they go without saying it's David Crosby.
As far as what?
Being involved in crushing the peace movement.
Oh, yeah. Do you know that Zappa refused to play the Monterey Pop Festival because he was like... Because at the time that they were asking him to play, the Beatles, Bob Dylan, Mamas and the Papas, the Byrds were all confirmed, quotations confirmed, and Zappa, they said everybody's playing, including, and Zappa said he didn't want to play because, quote unquote, he didn't think there were any good acts on the bill.
Amazing.
Except for Captain Beefheart.
Yeah. Well, it's his
who
boy.
he thought was decent.
There's a bit of a partial lineage between Beefheart and Jim Morrison.
I could see that.
Like kind of bluesy pirates.
Yeah, except Beefheart does it in like an actual, like really like sort of arty way to me. Whereas Jim Morrison, it's more like it's cool, but I don't know.
Would you consider Jim Morrison?
It's still in the canon. I'm sorry. It's still in the canon of that kind of like, I'm a blues guy.
Yeah, but who do you prefer, Beefheart or Jim? Come on. Who do you listen to more? Who's in your CD
I guess
play?
Doors.
What, Trout
I guess
Mask
probably
or
listen,
L.A. Woman?
But I'm getting older, man.
Yeah.
Like,
so you kind of like it's like being when you'd be mad.
I used to listen to more Beefheart.
You were a Magic Band guy.
Oh fuck yeah! I used to listen to Safe
Safe
as Milk all the time.
Take
Way
that
more
one
than
out.
any-
Take Safe as Milk out of it. Name another Beefheart record that you were into.
Trout Mask Replica.
No
I
way.
liked. Yeah, I did.
You
I
were
liked
into
it.
Trout Mask
I
Replica.
have it. Yeah, I liked it.
I've heard it.
Yeah.
Oh, I've
it's
heard
crazy,
of it.
but I liked it. Like,
Do you like it as much as Light My Fire?
I mean, now, no.
Oh,
Because I
but
like oldies radio.
You know,
like,
Zappa was a Hollywood Republican, right?
Yeah, I do.
Famously.
I do.
So,
Well, Zappa, I don't know shit. I couldn't name a
Rats.
song.
That's the only thing I could tell you.
Couldn't name a song. Really.
Yeah.
This is a weird one. People might be shocked. But
We could get into it on the pod. We could and listen.
I'd like to listen to an album and talk about it.
We're very aware that everyone who listens to this knows more about
of course
the music that
I
we're
know
talking
that.
about
I
than
know
we
that.
do. We're
But
learning on the job. We're building a community.
My history with the Doors has been well
versed,
documented.
You were a kind of backdoor man at one point.
Hated the Doors. No. Always hated them.
Oh.
Don't know why.
Okay.
Couldn't stand the Doors. I thought
It's a testosterone
you know
thing.
what it is? No, it's like a Cameron Crowe.
Oh.
I was influenced by like Almost Famous, where like Philip Seymour Hoffman as Lester Bangs says Jim Morrison, he's a drunken buffoon posing as a poet.
Yeah.
And I was 15 watching the movie.
They're intimidating guys.
And I was
right?
like,
They got
that must be true.
armadillos in their
So I was like,
trousers.
Doors suck.
Yeah.
That was my thing. Doors suck. I like all the other bands.
Yeah.
And then I hung out so much in L.A.
Oh, it's such an LA band.
And my friend Devin, who I was playing drums in his band,
Not the dude, but Wilson, I think.
Devin Williams.
Williams, yeah.
Don't know if he listens, but maybe some people know him who listen, which would be cool. Love Devin. He got me drumming in his band, and we used to just drive around L.A., and he'd always be blasting the Doors.
Dude, that sounds like heaven to me.
Moonlight Drive and all those
my
songs.
God. Come
and
on.
I got it. I
Yeah.
just got it.
Yeah, well,
and I
it's-
dug it. And that was it. And then I was like kind of a fan.
Yeah. I mean,
Kind of a fan.
Right.
Like I don't throw the records on, man.
do you feel like
I like L.A. Woman.
similar energy to Led Zeppelin? Like a lot of masculine energy?
Well, energy. Well,
Yeah.
Yeah, but not as much emitting from all the members as Zeppelin. You know, there's a lot of it coming out of Jim.
Yeah.
Same as Plant. The other guys seem kind of like mellow and cool to me. Like Manzarek just seems like kind of a chill dude.
A little bit of a duende flamenco energy.
Yeah, and like Krieger, like they're kind of chilled out guys.
Yeah.
You watch the documentary. Whereas Zeppelin, it's like they're all kind of alphas.
Yeah, I suppose
Except
so.
maybe not John Paul Jones or something.
He's the lukewarm water.
He's kind of like the same as like the keyboard player in Pink Floyd.
Richard Wright.
Feel. Kind of like
Richard
humble.
Wright feel? Yeah,
Humble
kind of
pie.
humble Englishman. Humble pie. You know that canned heat, Meltzer says that the Doors have finally overtaken canned heat as LA's #1 comedy band.
I gotta read this.
Dude,
I
that's what
love
he
this
said.
take.
Yeah.
Can I tell you a quick story about the song "L.A. Woman" by the Doors? Really
I've
quick.
heard of it.
It's really quick.
Listen,
So
it's
I have
fine.
a
we got
friend.
like 25 minutes.
I have
to
a
fill
friend listens to the pod. Friend of the pod. He
Yeah.
will remain nameless. Who I hung out with one time. Out where my parents live in Souk, and we had kind of like a fire pit outside.
Oh yeah.
And
there.
he'd eaten quite a few psychedelic mushrooms.
Yeah.
And we were hanging out, and I was DJing, you know, and I put on the song "L.A. Woman" by the Doors. And he's one of these guys, you know, like he just zeroed in on it, you know, and he was like, "What's going on here?"
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like, what's happened? Like, I need to know about this.
Like lyrically or just like emotionally?
Everything. And I started telling him this story.
Yeah.
Which I'll tell you the story I told him, which now I know is not at all true.
Yeah.
But that this is the story I've told to so many people over the
Yes.
years, James.
Please.
That is not true. That they recorded the album,
Yeah.
and then Jim Morrison, on the way to the airport to go to Paris,
Yes.
stopped at a Holiday Inn
Yeah.
and recorded the vocal to L.A. Woman in the bathroom.
You've told me that story before.
Which is not at all true.
No, you've told me that before.
But
though.
I thought this was the case.
Is that
and
because
then he
did
got
you
on a
just
plane-
invent it?
I think so. No, I must have got it somewhere.
Yeah.
And then he got on a plane to Paris and died the next day. Also
Nice.
not true.
No.
But this was and so to a guy on
it's
mushrooms,
fucking
he was just
crazy.
like listening to this voice and just being
Yeah.
like, it's everything, you know. It's this like just rock and roll.
I've seen him out in Souk anthropomorphized. He's a deer now. He's like a fawn or something.
Yeah.
Jim Morrison out there.
Jim, yeah.
I've seen Jim out there.
So my friend, you know, he's just transfixed by this, and then eventually it's at 2 a.m. I say, I'm going to bed.
Yeah.
And he's like, okay, and he's like, I'm staying out here.
Oh yeah, man.
You know.
100%.
So I go up to where I'm sleeping, and there was like
Just
the Bluetooth
raw.
speaker
Just
out
a
there.
raw energy.
And I get up to my room, and I
he's-
just hear "L.A. Woman"
Yeah,
come on again.
fired up.
You know. And then it finishes 5 minutes later, and then
Again. Amazing.
he's out there listening to it,
Yeah.
dude, all night.
Actually does have like a similar vibe to Song Remains the Same a little bit. Kind of like a keyed up.
And kind of like a Benicio del Toro in Fear and Loathing, like White Rabbit, where it's like, just keep playing it.
Yeah, man.
Like, I don't need any other
Yeah,
song.
no, I'm good.
Like, I'm good with just L.A. Woman.
It's also like you've got to be careful with that record because it gets real dark after LA Woman.
Yeah.
You like just pumped up, charged up, ready to go out partying, and then L'America comes on. And you just suddenly realize you've done way too many drugs.
I don't know about the sequencing
boom.
there.
Yeah.
I'm not sure about that sequencing.
I'm not sure why LA Woman isn't. Well, no, that's pretty strong. I'm surprised it didn't go like.
Should have opened with that.
Well,
no,
but the Changeling
Sweet.
rules though.
Yeah.
Like, and then they've gone Love Her Madly's the hit. Right,
good. Yeah.
So Been Down So Long's maybe a bit of a. It could have been number 3. Been Down So Long could be like track.
I think like
8.
L.A. Woman should have been the last song, and you end
No,
side A
Riders
with
on
Riders
the,
on the
no,
Storm.
Riders
End
no.
side A.
You know what though? It's the first record they made since the first one that has like long players. Like the end is the only other song that even compares in terms of like long form Jim,
Right.
like to Riders on the Storm and LA Woman.
Right.
And it bookends their career beautifully, that.
You know what Jim Ladd, radio DJ, says about
I'd love to
L.A.
know.
Woman?
I don't, but I'd love to know.
He said, you know, when L.A. Woman came out, that was our anthem. That was our anthem. And he says, what describes L.A. more than L.A. Woman? Answer? Nothing.
Yeah, nothing.
That's what he said.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Nothing.
He actually says, answer? Nothing.
Oh, it's not. It's like rhetorical.
He says it.
But he
yeah.
answers his own question.
Yeah, he does. Yeah. Well, they were working on a higher level musically, lyrically, intellectually, and psychotically.
Exactly, yeah. But you know that Jim Morrison actually kind of has he was like has Navy connections, obviously through his dad.
Yeah.
Like his dad started the Vietnam War, but also Zappa's wife Gail, who was also the child of a naval officer, and they both went to school together in Virginia.
Interesting.
Yeah, kind of a Jason Bourne vibe.
I'm convinced.
Like a
Langley,
NSA,
Virginia?
exactly. He went to school in Langley, Virginia with Zappa's wife as kids. It's kind of like Beck having like Beck's wife's mother delivered him because they're all Scientologists and shit.
Yeah.
Like all that kind of stuff. There's definitely an energy there. And yeah, like for sure it's weird because like they're all like sons and daughters of high-ranking people within the military-industrial complex.
But like, that's what I mean. It's kind of crazy that like all these people came from really prominent and privileged families. They were able to avoid the draft.
Yeah.
And they had the ways and means to create this culture in Laurel Canyon in LA that we all
around a military base.
Yeah, like it I mean,
in the barracks, ostensibly.
I'm not going to take it any further than that. This is for a much more developed and sort of
warped, deluded mind.
Yeah, or I was just going to say a more research-based podcast.
Yeah, this is more of a riff-based kind of thing.
Yeah,
we're kind of a bit more jazzy.
I'm just saying,
I kind of relate to Jim in that sense.
Yeah.
Well, I'm kind of think of myself a little bit of as a spoken word guy sometimes.
Yeah, I could see that.
Just
right
kind of
now. Oh, you're a bit of a Jim.
Yeah, I just think of myself as kind of
on
like
the pod.
Well, like,
That's
you know,
cool.
a peace frog kind of.
I could see that.
Peace frog Jim.
Yeah,
like kind of just like, it's kind of going off, like just saying what's come to mind, like, and knowing that it's like what people need to know. You know, sometimes, I mean, I don't know, we've done this before. Sometimes, you know, I get really down, right? Down so long, right? And
Looks like up to you.
Yeah,
at that point.
Exactly. It's that far down. It's like reversed. And sometimes, you know, in those days, like when I'm like that, you know, I call you up, you know, actually more likely you call me because you know I'm down and we go for a walk, you know, we walk down to the beach. And when we're down there, I just get elated, euphoric, you know, after being like kind of loved out of it. And, you know, and I start thinking about podcast ideas. And it's much the same reading about Jim, like, you know, being loved out of it by John Densmore and just going for a walk around the canyon and being like, you know what, man? People are strange. You know what I mean? And then like knowing like sometimes you just need to, you know, kind of get that sort of spoken word energy like kind of loved out of you.
Totally, man.
Yeah, that's where I'm at. It's
crazy that like I get it from like John Densmore. Like he was talking about on this documentary how he says, I was in heaven.
Yeah.
So I was so connected to this music.
Oh, man.
I was so into playing it.
Yeah.
And I had this singer who was just like, our singer's gone crazy with booze.
Yeah.
And he's, you know, kind of ruining the whole thing, but you need him to do it. I could see that being kind of a drag, you know?
Yeah, but it also remains kind of a mystery how Jim showed up so fully formed.
Well,
you
that's
know,
because
kind of,
he'd come straight out of a lab.
Well, Area 51.
Yeah.
He's like an Area 51 Lancaster, California
It's like
creation.
a T-1000 kind of Terminator
it's
thing where he's
exactly
created
the same.
and just appeared in Laurel Canyon.
It's the same.
Lightning bolt, smoke, naked.
Yeah.
And then like, no, it's like the Terminator where then he went to he walked up to like a guy who dressed like Jim Morrison as we know that style of dress.
Yeah.
And he was like, I'll need your clothes now.
Yeah.
And he just did that.
Exactly the same.
Yeah.
And then you just walk down. I kind of struggle to imagine because they were famously opening for Love all the time at the Whiskey. Struggle to imagine Arthur Lee and Love being part of it. part of the kind of peace control
I
movement.
think we should talk about that.
Maybe. I mean, he went to jail for a long time, didn't he?
Forever Changes was one of those albums that I couldn't ever really be like, oh yeah, that's it.
So one time I was one of the highest I've ever been, actually on Vancouver Island. And when you're like so high that you are even aware that like
it looks like low to you.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of a reverse blues situation. It's a reverse.
Well, I've been high so goddamn long.
Exactly. So high and that I was aware I was with my band, and I was aware that they like. Sometimes I talk a lot, right? And sometimes when I get a reverse blues situation when I get high, because I'm just like, I don't want to talk. I'm just like in this kind of place. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm in the Hyacinth House probably.
Yeah.
It's
great
like,
tune.
Yeah, what's going on in there? What is going on in there?
When I heard that one today, I was like, good song.
Yeah.
Would be better if Robert Plant was singing it.
Interesting.
Hot take.
Yeah, well,
Heard
I'm saying they're similar. I saying they're similar. They've got a similar feel.
It sounded Zeppelin-y. I was like, I wanted Plant to come in. Then he was like, what is? And I was like, what the fuck?
It sounds like it's slowed down. And that's another time. Me and Malcolm once got so fucked up and played a show in Nanaimo. And we were DJing too. And it had been boiling hot for like outside for, I don't even fucking know, like 4 or 5 hours, and Malcolm and me were DJing, and he was playing. He put on the Doors' "L.A. Woman," and he had it on this. We'd done like tons of acid because it's like an outdoor thing. This isn't even the story I was going to tell you. This is like a different story. And he put on "Hyacinth House" by the Doors, but the sun was beating down on the turntable for so long. He started playing it, and it was like it already sounds like it's slow. But like I was listening on these massive speakers and watching him, and he put it on, and it was like, what's going on? And I was really high. And then he picked up the record, and it started melting in his hands because it was just literally like the sun had been on it for so long. But we were also on acid. But that wasn't what I was going to tell you. I was going to tell you a story about being more on the kind of south end of
jam, baby, just jam.
Dude, I was in Saanich, and I was like real high. And we'd finished recording a record, and I was like kind of at that place where you're just kind of like, oh man, like I can't go and be around people right now. Even though we're in the studio, I was like, I can't go because like, but then I was like, but I don't want to let them down. So I was like sat around this fire pit with like my band and a couple of other people. And I was like, just in my mind, I was like, just fucking don't talk. Just like make sure you have some sense of perspective of what's even going on here, because you can't see anything.
Sure.
It's for damn sure. So I was listening, and I was like pretty convinced that everyone was talking about the song like, I will be alone again tonight with you. Like the love song.
Right.
Like Alone Again.
Yeah.
I was like, Alone Again or. Like Alone Again. Alone Again / or.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I'm pretty sure. And my friend was there, and he was like talking about this song's amazing. Like, if you actually listen to it, it's fucking like, it's dark. It's like got this dark energy. And I'm like, okay, just keep listening. Like, just keep follow the conversation. You're really high. Just make sure you've not made up that they're talking about Arthur Lee and love. Okay. Like, just make sure. 5 minutes, I swear I was listening to them dissecting In Love Again and I was like, this is okay, this is like a whole campfire of like 6 or 7 people
like
talking
how you did,
about
like,
this song.
In Love Again, like a little Yukon Blonde segue there.
Yeah.
Alone Again?
Alone Again.
Said
wow, a little Freudian slip. Yeah. Freudian.
Sure.
So, I mean, or maybe it's just a free association kind of beat feel.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, okay. More of a kind of beat, kind of broad again.
Keep going, though. So what happened?
So I'm listening to them, and they're talking about Alone Again and I'm just like, okay, you're thinking like, fuck, I've got so much to say about this song. I fucking love this song. I've seen them, in Spain. I've got a great story about that. And I just finally, I'm like, okay, you've listened enough. They're definitely talking about this song. And I'm like, yeah, man, I love. Like, I love Arthur Lee. And everyone just looks at me, and I'm like, what are you talking about? There's nothing. They were having nothing to do with that song. There was not. They were just talking. They were just having like a chat about like Wall Street or something. I even know what they were talking about, and I just invented that we were having a conversation about that song.
Feel that.
Yeah,
and
I feel like that's a Jim Morrison story. He probably spent about the last 3 or 4 years of his life in that situation.
You know the love song I like, The Red Telephone. That one's good.
No, yeah. What's that one? That's not Red Telephone?
No.
Little Red Book. You mean Little Red Book?
The Red Telephone. It's God, I can't think of how it goes. Anyway, The Red Telephone. That's the one I like. I can't think of how it goes right now. It's great.
The Red Telephone is off that same record.
Yeah. But
Forever
that's my favorite
Changes.
song on it. It's the one. He goes like.
But it's weird that they have a song called My Little Red Book too.
Yeah, Madonna ripped off a song of theirs, big time.
Starlight, Star Bright. You get that a lot. That shows up. Oh, you got it up. Put it up to the mic. That's how professionals do it. Put it up to the mic. Yeah. It's good. Kind of harpsichord, kinksy and kinksy.
Bill. Feel real phony when my name is Bill, man.
Yeah,
it's cool.
It's kind of got a Syd Barrett vibe too. Then
definitely.
Maybe. Yeah.
Syd Barrett.
Man, can you imagine?
I want to do some of those records, man. Like
what? Madcap Laughs?
I'd like to go across the pond.
Yeah, but we've not even got to the Eagles yet. We've got like 2 months more of Laurel Canyon.
James.
You know, this is the only thing
trying to avoid that.
Dude, this is the only thing that connects both sides of Laurel Canyon. But it's interesting. No mention of Carole King and Joni and like Crosby, Stills and Nash are a bit of a pivot because like Stephen Stills definitely had that kind of like hallucinatory Vietnam vibe.
Because people with the intellect of Joni Mitchell and Carole King aren't able to be brainwashed by the CIA.
You think that's what it is?
Yeah, they're too strong of mind.
Also, Meltzer says that they sound like the Beach Boys on L.A. Woman. Like they're kind of tight to a kind of comedic
Well, they're a
sense.
comedy group.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
He says they used to kind of be like a bit rock, but by L.A. Woman, they're just like...
I love that.
Man, can you imagine how good the vibe is, though? Like, even if it is, think about this, even if it is a CIA, like, psyop, kind of State Department type conspiracy to keep people from revolting and just being into, like, this, like, American sort of patriot exceptionalism version of freedom, which is just a Cold War, kind of counterpoint to, totalitarianism. If that's what it takes for me to just kind of like wake up one morning, drop some acid, walk down the canyon, go and watch the birds or like Buffalo Springfield, and then drive out, I don't know, to like the Joshua Tree, drinking like a Mickey, knowing you're not going to get in trouble because you're like doing what the government wants you to do.
It's so true.
Stay up all night in the Joshua Tree, right next to where Graham Parsons is going to be buried, just like looking for UFOs and believing in them. And at the worst, like go home and be like, hey, we're still high. Let's go over to Houdini's house and like watch some tricks. Like if that's that's what it is to live.
Because what would the alternative be? Is that like you start some anti-war movement that would fail inevitably anyway?
Yeah, exactly.
And then you wouldn't have gotten to see like all these bands.
No.
So it's like you're totally right. Yeah. It's like it backfired on us and the government.
Yeah. Because it sounded like the best time to be alive. It's like, it's this kind of like fleeing phantom of youth. It's like the most romantic time of all time.
And because the U.S. military gifted it to those kids.
Yeah, totally.
So really, all you boomers out there listening who think that you have been ripped off in some way.
Somehow.
You should just get down on your knees and thank the U.S. government
You should.
for giving you the music of Jim Morrison and the Doors.
Absolutely.